The delay is.
I don't know. Let's give it about 5 seconds, I guess.
Has it been 5 seconds?
Sure. I see it's starting on YouTube side, so I'm going to say this is the Action Cast, the only live stream that wants the pink elephant. And now,
Take the fucking
our
elephant.
feature presentation. We're back, baby.
Uh-huh.
Just like the old days.
Future now, so
Just
they
like
can
the
use
old
Content
days.
ID
We're back in
to
the
take
old
our
days.
money for that jingle.
That's right. To take the penny, so that Keith, what's his name? Keith, the guy who wrote the Funky Fanfare, can get pennies from us.
Keith.
Funky Keith, who did the Funky Fanfare. We used to do a thing where we didn't introduce ourselves, but I'm Joe Drilling, and with me as my normal broadcast partner, Mr. Eric Allen.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, how you doing, buddy? It's been a while since we've done this.
I'm pretty scared, but we'll probably figure it out as we go
We'll
along.
probably figure it out.
Hey, Joe, I was engaged to a girl that had a wooden leg.
Yeah, what happened?
I had to break it off.
Well, I think if we're not gonna kill Bryce Wilson, he's got to do some things. He's got things to do.
I have 5 more points to make, in fact. So.
7. I thought it was 7. 7 more points. That he had to make.
Well, way to show me up there, Joe.
Yeah,
Thanks.
sorry.
Bryce
I
can only
just
count to
watched it.
5. Thanks for calling him out on it.
Bryce used
Oh,
to know a lot
no.
about movies, and then he got married and bought a house, and he doesn't know what's going on anymore.
Yeah, pretty much. I am not with it with the kids anymore.
Well, fortunately, we're talking about a 30-year-old movie with our friend Anthony Rogers.
Hey, so, well, guys, what is it about the dark? What secret does
What
it?
secrets? That's the line is just so. Oh, it's so good.
It's so good.
And rounding out,
This whole movie
this,
is so good.
That's true. That's true. And of course, rounding out, I'm sure hopefully by the middle of this, we'll get some sort of protracted metaphor about socks full of quarters or something. Ethan Chang.
It's me. Oh, fuck.
Uh-huh.
It's
It is
me.
indeed him, yeah.
My Discord broke. Uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
All right.
Or a man
So
down
this-
already.
This is going about as well as I thought it was.
As it ever could. And now it's live, so we can't even try to edit around it or anything.
Ah,
so,
jeez.
That's fine.
The action cast is back in roaring form.
yeah. Just, I mean, same as it ever was, right?
Yeah.
So. Yeah, we haven't done this. Is this Action Cast like Cycle 2, Episode 1, or is this Action Cast 101? That's really what I want to know. At
This
point.
is the Action Cast 2.
It's 201. Season 2.
Season
episode
2,
one.
Episode
Tracking
1.
my mic as hard as I can, Anthony.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, you did it. You're back.
Oh dear.
I'm back.
So as is the tradition, before we get to actually talking about the movie, and you'll
No!
notice that we have
We're not
gifts.
doing this. Stop. Okay.
We have gifts and we have the NES
You can't
game
do this to me, Joe.
content ID'd. As Eric will be playing the NES game from Ocean Software, which I actually played this game and wrote about it for when Bryce did a Sam Raimi like blogathon.
Oh, back in the day when blogs were a thing.
Yeah, back in the day, and I played through this whole game. And Eric, I'm sorry for what you're about to go through. The only neat thing is that as you put on different masks, you get different powers from the different people you impersonate. But like, it's still pretty bad, and like, really, the controls are awful.
Not
But
like
hey,
Kid Chameleon.
it's not like Kid Chameleon, and there's no Jason Voorhees like form in the Darkman NES game. So it goes. But I guess we should start with an action cast, action movie, action break.
Nope.
Yep.
Next.
That's what Eric was mad about.
Yeah, well, that's definitely what Eric was mad about for sure.
Well, so this is a big improvement for us since this is live. That means these things will be timely.
Right. That means when we say Max von Sydow died today,
And then
that's
post the
actually
episode
accurate.
4 months later.
The king from Action Cast's favorite Conan the Barbarian is dead. He's an obscure actor. That's definitely was his best known role, and it's sad to see him go.
Yeah, I mean, he did a lot of. He was in
Oh, shit.
several movies we talked about on the Action Cast. He was also in the Judge Dredd, the Stallone
I
Dredd
thought you
movie.
were joking about that earlier. Holy shit!
Oh, he really
I
did
forgot
die.
about it. No,
Yeah,
Why did you think we were joking about that?
I don't know. I was like, why
Jesse-
did you? I thought you just picked a random name.
Chess game is finally over.
Yeah, he lost the chess game this time. Unfortunately. But he was
One of
90.
the
He
headlines
lived a
about
good
his
life.
death was they only mentioned that he was the voice of the painting in Ghostbusters 2.
What website did you read that at? That's terrible.
I saw it was somebody tweeted out the headline. I didn't see
That's
the original
excellent.
post. I imagine they got rid of it after they got roasted.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure. Of course, he played Father Marin when he was like 40, but had really, really good age makeup on done by Dick Smith that made him look like he was already 90. And like, so he looks the same in a movie from like 1972 as he looked like yesterday before he died. But yeah, I mean, a great actor who wasn't too much like the star of the movie we'll be talking about tonight. Wasn't too pretentious to do some weird genre shit for sure, because he was Ming the Merciless, of course, in the Flash Gordon movie, and he was the Chief Justice in Judge Dredd with Sylvester Stallone, and he was
again bringing some much needed gravitas to Conan. I think one of
Yes.
my favorite little genre performances they did is in Shutter Island as the vaguely sinister psychiatrist.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah.
And I love it. I love his delivery of the line where he goes, "Wounds create monsters, and you are wounded." So great kind of just on the edge of camp role.
Yeah. He and Ben
Trump.
Kingsley both play kind of like vaguely sinister psychiatrists in that movie.
He's also inexplicably in the first scene of Star Wars: The Force Awakens, and gets killed immediately.
Just
Right,
one
yeah.
of the many
because.
things that didn't pay off in that really bad trilogy.
Yeah. Let's not
Really
talk
awful trilogy.
Well, one of those movies.
We'll do this someday.
We'll do that another day.
Yeah.
That's the one I think major action movie news thing that I have.
Star Wars.
What about it? They're saying Palpatine doesn't fuck, but as far as I'm concerned, Palpatine fucks. All right,
Palpatine definitely fucks.
Palpatine definitely fucks.
If you want that twist, you have to buy all the implications.
You can't post hoc facto that Palpatine doesn't fuck.
No, but you don't understand.
I'm not buying that.
But his clone fucked, which just by like transitive property means he fucks.
No, there was no clone. He fucked, and then his son fucked.
I mean, I'm fine with that.
Because Palpatine fucks. And
where did these story beats? Like, where are they told? Is it like the creative team writes a tweet?
My favorite thing is actually that they've been all these headlines say that Star Wars says, like the headlines on Cinema Blend and whatever. Right. They're also like Star Wars says, and I'm like, ooh, like J.J. Abrams, Kathleen Kennedy, a social media manager at Disney. Like, who the fuck is Star Wars that is saying, this is the
Star Wars
or whatever? Yeah.
One of the extras at Disneyland.
Yeah, one of the cast members at Disney said, "Hey man, it's cool. It's not
the guy.
A clone.
Palpatine doesn't fuck.
The guy at Disney dressed as Palpatine was like, I don't fuck.
Right, and the fact that they have to keep clarifying things in the movie, just like I didn't really like the third.
I thought we weren't doing
trilogy, but we're
not doing it. Let's move on
as we go. Yeah, you're supposed to next us, Eric. That's your job. Is to yell next. When we get to the.
I already did. I did before you started this fucking segment.
Fair enough.
By the segment, you mean the action cast?
Yes.
People want to hear about Darkman. They want to hear about Peyton Westlake's magical new skin graft technology.
Yeah. Well, the only other piece of action movie
they need to know
that I had is that
I'm gonna rip my leg off and shoot you in the fucking head if you don't move on.
The new Bond movie got pushed from April to November because coronavirus.
That's why we can't have nice things.
I haven't seen any other movies get pushed, but that one got pushed like 6 months because coronavirus. So or 7 months, I guess.
Is this because they don't want people? They don't think people will go to the theater?
Yeah, they don't think people will go to movie theaters to see it, I guess.
Okay.
And these movies at this point are such a colossal investment that I'm sure they ran the numbers and figured out.
I'm loving watching this game be played. By the way,
it's really bad. And the other thing I have is that via YouTube channel Rossitron, Gareth Edwards is working on a new movie, and we should all be very excited and thankful.
I just happened to watch.
I thought
I just happened to watch the Rad the other night. So Where did everyone fall on the Apostle? Just out of curiosity.
I thought it was a little too dark to see what was going on in some of the scenes, but I liked the Apostle a lot. I like Dan Stevens a lot.
It was Darkman.
So
It was Darkman.
You.
Yeah, I'm mostly positive on it. I feel like you could have easily lost like 20 minutes, and I'm not usually one to say that about a movie, but yeah, other than that, it was well made.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised to learn.
The
No,
movie with Robert Duvall.
Not the Robert Duvall one. The recent cult movie with Dan Stevens.
You'll be surprised to learn that I have not seen it or know what you're talking about.
It's on Netflix. It was a Netflix.
Hey, me neither.
Came out about a year and a half ago, I want to say.
It's the last Gareth Edwards movie, so although that being said, I would definitely watch a Gareth Edwards version of The Apostle with Robert Duvall. That would be pretty sick.
Also true.
The Robert Duvall one had really good rear projection explosions.
The movie we're talking about tonight has some pretty bad compositing in some moments.
What?
So,
Yeah, pretty bad. Yep.
pretty bad composites.
That's one of the things that I find really funny is like that helicopter action sequence at the end is like such a strange mix of holding up and not holding up, you know, like
Yes.
like you're watching some of the stunt work and some of the compositions, you're like, this is great, and then like it'll have like a shot where it literally looks like they're holding up like a Darkman sticker in front of a window and
You call
shaking
it
it around.
bad
And,
if it makes
Yeah.
you extremely happy. Is
Yeah.
my question.
yeah, true.
Yeah.
That's a valid take.
So that is all the news that's fit to print as far as I'm concerned. We can move on to the movie.
Next.
Mhm.
Now we move on to the end of the show.
Yeah. Good night, everyone.
Good night,
See us
everyone.
next time for Fury Road because we're old now.
All right,
Yeah, we are.
guys, what's up with Darkman?
Darkman is a
Okay.
1990 film directed by Sam Raimi and starring Liam
Woohoo!
Neeson. And it's
And Frances McDormand,
Frances McDormand.
two of my favorites.
Yeah, apparently her husband did some script doctoring on this. There's a million credited writers on this, and I actually don't think he is one of them, but apparently he did take a pass at it at one point. So, yeah, this is a kind of a historical artifact of a movie, right? Like
They don't make them like this anymore, man.
they really don't.
So-
They really don't.
So it's interesting to me because like I would argue that Sam Raimi has never made an impersonal movie. I mean, even like the Oz one, say what you will about it, but it's essentially a PG version of Army of Darkness. And even
especially
with
the
that,
end sequence. The end sequence is almost like shot for shot. Army of Darkness.
Yeah. But even taking that in mind, like I don't think there was ever a time when his personal independent sensibilities fused with a major studio budget and production better than Darkman. And like
Army of
I just-
Darkness. Army of Darkness.
yeah, but this is on such a much bigger scale though. You know, and just to me it's such a miracle that this weird auteurist violent bizarre pulp 1930s thing even exists. Like yeah, you say that they don't make it like this anymore. I don't think they ever did.
That's fair.
Yeah,
That's fair. Yeah.
That's fair. Well, there was a pulp hero sort of like this is so weird, but the lesson Hollywood took in 1989 from Batman being a gigantic success was not let's do more superhero movies. It was let's do more 1930s pulp style movies.
Right.
And so
Yeah.
we got The Rocketeer and The Shadow and The Phantom and this is not actually based on a real. But it has elements of The Shadow. It has.
It has a lot of
Batman.
elements of The Shadow. Sam Raimi pitched The Shadow originally and was turned down for it, so he basically came back with this, which is essentially not The Shadow, you know, more or less. It's someone who is dressed exactly as The Shadow and
something
has most of the Shadow's
darkness,
powers.
something
yeah.
darkness. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and this I think is also better than Russell McKay's Shadow
Yes,
movie,
I think that's quite safe to say.
Yeah. Which is a movie I've kind of wanted to revisit because I kind of wonder if it's as bad as I remember it being, or if I was
That's-
like an overly
that's-
cynical 15-year-old the last time I watched it. And
That's one of
That's
those movies that I last watched. I used to love when I was like 9, you know, and I'm just willing to leave that one in the past and just believe that I had shit taste at 9, you know. So
fair enough.
What do you think the Phantom holds up, or
I don't think the Phantom was ever good,
no?
so that it could hold up.
Which
but
the
I did
Shadow is a
see-
Baldwin Do you remember
Yes.
Yeah, it was
That
Alec.
was
The
that was
most
definitely a
famous
Baldwin.
that right? Okay.
That's Baldwin, Ian McKellen, and perennial '90s girl who always ruins movies. What's her Penelope Ann Miller. So
Oh, that was Penelope Ann
that
Miller.
that is once again a time capsule of a film.
Yeah. Oh, and Dick Tracy. We got the Dick Tracy movie,
Oh
which is
yeah, right.
Yeah,
really
yeah.
weird because they did all this really cool makeup on all the bad guys, but not on Dick Tracy himself. So
Madonna
like they all
and
look
Warren
like
Beatty, yeah,
yeah,
are like normal with a bunch of weird rubber monsters.
right. Al
Yeah.
Pacino
Yeah.
is like a
You
horror
get-
movie villain, and
William Forsythe.
William Forsythe. Yes, his
Yeah.
flat top is they're all like carnival
Action
freaks,
cast favorite.
and
Yeah.
yes, for sure. Anybody seen Richie?
You got the bread, you got the balls. You got the balls, I got the bread. I am sorry to
Yep.
all two of the William
Who's got the
Forsythe
fucking
fans
balls?
out there.
You got the fucking balls, Polly? Yeah. But that was another, and this movie, like we were saying, just kind of falls into that mold, even though it is not actually based on a property from the 30s, like a lot of those
Which
other movies.
I learned after watching this and reading about it on Wikipedia.
that it is
And
not based on one of those.
Yeah, I straight up thought Darkman was a comic.
Oh, yeah.
I just didn't know.
They eventually did turn it into a comic,
Yeah.
Right.
as well as a mini DTV franchise starring one Arnold Vosloo. So
Yeah, right.
it had
And
that
Jeff
going
Fahey.
for it.
Jeff Fahey and Arnold
That's right.
Vosloo, the ultimate like C-list thriller actors of the 90s, together.
Some direct-to-video
Oh my
sequels
god, you
as
made
well,
it across,
right?
Eric.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
never mind.
And the direct-to-video
Maybe started talking.
sequels, they were filmed concurrently, and they ended up releasing them in the opposite order they were scripted and shot in, apparently, which is weird. I've only seen bits and pieces of the sequels with Arnold Vosloo and Jeff Fahey's in one of
I
them.
have had a tremendous amount of affection for this movie since I was a kid, and I have definitely never seen either of the sequels. So,
Wow.
what can you do?
Yeah, can we talk for a minute about how this? Did anybody else notice that this movie is RoboCop?
Yes, it is.
Explain.
Yes,
Well-
yeah.
Okay.
Not enough dick shooting. It's like
Well,
it's one of the RoboCop
Not enough.
sequels.
That's true. Not enough
I-
dick shooting, but like the storyline of like the bad guy's a real estate developer who wants to like beautify Detroit into like a different thing and take control of it is like it's like and the hero is a guy who gets horribly disfigured by a criminal who's actually working with a legit, like it's just
Well-
it is RoboCop. The movie is RoboCop. Like
So, the key to those to revenge films is that you have to make like the motivating scene just like so horrible and lonely and sad, and like that's what I really admire about this movie is that I think it's safe to say that this movie plays broad. A lot of it is very purposely campy, but when it needs to, like, it can put on like a serious tone. And like the thing that kicks the movie off, like the torture and attempted murder of Peyton Westlake, played by giant Irishman Liam Neeson, is like it's a legitimately horrific scene, and like the warmth of the relationship that you get the sense of before that is good. So like that's what makes this movie great is it's bizarre, but it's not just bizarre. It's camp, but it's not just camp. It's gore effects, but it's not just gore effects. Like there's a real heart and soul to this movie, much like RoboCop. That even when it's just utterly grotesque, like you still have this kind of human core that's keeping you
And I mean,
grounded.
it's like
And that to me is the
ridiculous-
Raimi touch.
And it's like ridiculous and campy, but like the parts at the end about how he like doesn't like the monster he's become and stuff, that stuff actually lands because it's like it does just enough of that. Like if it was 100% camp and bad, then it wouldn't. Like you would just groan at that part. But
I also
I
think
think
it's
basically
credit to
every
me-
line in this movie is delivered like it's a musical, and it's the line that happens before they're about to launch into a musical number. And sometimes they're about to walk into like a touching ballad, but you're still like waiting for the music.
Mhm.
That is an excellent descriptor. It's like Streets of Fire without music.
Yeah, I think that's a
I
credit
wonder
to
I love
Liam
this
Neeson
film.
too, because
I was
apparently,
gonna say.
allegedly, Raimi wanted Bruce Campbell as Peyton, and I think that I love Bruce Campbell, but I don't think he quite has the gravitas to pull that off.
He would have definitely pulled the film in a much more campy direction. And it's funny, like to me, it's funny when you can always hear like dialogue that he did write for Bruce Campbell, because like I feel like when he and Frances McDormand have that exchange at the beginning where he talks about like uh, when my grandmother calls, you won't have to like pretend she's got the wrong number. Like poor lady thinks she has dementia. Like I can hear Bruce Campbell
Yeah, yeah.
delivering that role, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I watch, to me, it's incredible that no one thought to make Liam Neeson an action star until 2004. And every time I watch this movie, like I believe it less, because he's fucking huge. He's a giant 6'4" Irish donkey man, and he looks like he can like destroy you. And yet he's an excellent actor and like brings real soul and sadness to it. So like, why wouldn't you put him in every action movie that you made between this and Taken? It's incredible to me that
Like,
people didn't see his potential.
I mean,
the best example of
he
that.
bulked up a lot, like from 1990 to 2000, whatever, when Taken came out, because he is a much larger, thicker person now than he was back then.
Yeah, I mean, he could have bulked up it. I mean, if a studio wanted him to do it, you know, that's. But yeah, I mean, like
Eric,
I said
is
about
that a drumstick? You're
Anthony, I don't know what the fuck's going on, man.
like we said about Max von Sydow, like Liam Neeson
who died apparently.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Still
told you
dead.
that, and you didn't believe me apparently. So,
For those of you just turning in, Max von Sydow is still dead.
Yeah.
Breaking news.
But you know, he like Liam Neeson is unafraid to do like really ridiculous stuff. I still haven't seen the movie where he's like the revenge-seeking snowplow driver. But Eric, I think you said
I saw it. Yeah, you know what? That movie is totally. If you like Liam Neeson doing like crazy stuff and being a cool action guy, that movie's pretty good. But also like having gravitas and being a good actor. Yeah, that movie is.
I saw that
totally
one where he lost his memory.
I don't know which one you're talking about.
There's one where he's like in a car crash.
That's Harrison Ford.
No. There's one with Liam Neeson. Came out
Did
the
you
last
see,
couple
Anthony,
years.
did you see the Liam Neeson movie where the police think he killed his wife, but it was really a guy with one arm?
Anthony, did you see that Liam Neeson movie where he has to protect the Amish woman? He's a cop. And...
Yeah, where he has a fedora and he tries
Anthony,
to collect ancient artifacts. Have you seen that one?
Have you seen that the one where he's a space pirate and he's flying around with this giant, big furry
Giant
animal?
hairy friend.
Can we just redo real life and like flip flop those two guys just for shits and giggles and see what happens?
That'd be pretty good. That'd be pretty good.
Harrison Ford's Taken.
Uh-huh.
Dude, I would watch this shit out.
Yeah, that'd be great.
No,
Absolutely.
but what I really want now is Liam Neeson in Air Force One. But yeah, I mean, obviously he's generally a well-respected actor. He's in a lot of historical dramas, you know, Rob Roy and what's the one about the Irish independence movement? Michael
Collins.
Michael Collins. And all that stuff. But then he also, you know, has done Darkman and Taken 2 and Taken 3 and the snowplow one that I don't remember what it's called. But he's a snowplow driver.
I don't remember what it's called either, but he saves a kid.
There's the one on the plane. There's the one on the train. Yeah.
Right. Oh yeah, there's the one on the train. I forgot about that. I didn't see that one either.
He fights some wolves.
The gray is
the gray.
great.
Yeah, the gray is
You know,
that's where he beats up the wolves where he smashes the nip bottles and makes claws.
Yep. You know what? I'm still mad actually when we're talking about old action casts that I didn't defend the Gray harder against you, Ethan, because that's a legit great film, and I will like restart the Gray fight right in the middle of this thing.
I don't know if it's
great. Why I liked it or didn't like it.
I don't know if it's great or not, but it has some good wolf puppets. So
It does have some good wolf puppets. It's got an excellent cast. You got Frank Grillo in there. A bunch of people. Like to me, that's one of the few films that feels like modern. The wolves are there, you know. The breaking the mini bar bottles to survive against the wolves is there. To me, that's one of the few films that I feel like stands up as modern Peckinpah. So here it is. 5 years later, the Gray is great, Ethan. You're wrong about that.
I'll have to listen to why I didn't like it, and then I'll be prepared to argue with you in the next one.
I'm still like upset that that Joe Carnahan didn't get to make the Death Wish movie, and it ended up going to Eli Roth, and apparently it was not good.
It was not. It was. I did
so-
not think it was possible to make a boring Death Wish movie, and
Yeah.
I didn't think it was possible for Bruce Willis to give any less of a fuck than he had ever given, and I was wrong about both those things.
Yeah.
Let's. So one of my favorite lists that I put together on Letterboxd, and it's probably my just dickishest list, is my list of favorite Joe Carnahan films, which at the moment stands at Mission Impossible 3, A Walk Among the Tombstones, Death Wish, and Bad Boys for Life. So all films that he was unceremoniously drummed out of. Although A Walk Among the Tombstones, yeah, that's another great latter-day Liam Neeson performance and another great Dan Stevens performance. So,
yeah, and it actually turned out pretty well, even though Joe Carnahan didn't end up directing it. It turned out all right.
That's the one of those that has a happy ending. So
Yeah.
Also got the nice sheriff from Stranger Things as a complete fucking psychopath. It's a great film, and I guarantee you that no one listening to it has seen it. So turn off this podcast and go watch Walk Among the Tombstones. You'll have a better night. Basically,
it's not the best. It's not the best movie based on a Denny Lehane novel.
Oh, that's because it's based on a Lawrence Block novel.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Actually.
Well, there you go. Okay, well, even if it was based on a Dennis Lehane novel, it wouldn't be the best movie based on a Dennis Lehane novel. So
that's true. Yeah.
Is it the best movie based on a novel by that guy whose books I'm less familiar with than Dennis Lehane?
I think so, because the other ones based on his books are 8 Million Ways to Die, which was made by a coked out Hal Ashby and a stoned Jeff Bridges, and Burglar, starring Whoopi Goldberg. So I think it's safe to say that it is the best film based on his work.
Okay. Sounds good. Anyways, Darkman.
Sorry, that was a derailment even for us. Hey, we really are back. We just had our first complete and utter
we never stopped.
derailment. Like we never stopped.
Huge cul-de-sac of the second season of the Action Cast. I took notes. I should be looking at my notes to attempt to keep us on track. Oh man! So we were talking about the campy aspects. Can we talk about how in the opening scene, like the bad guys meet other bad guys, and everyone's got nunchucks?
Yeah, I wrote nunchucks and haircuts. Lots of nunchucks, lots of bad haircuts.
Mm-hmm.
It's really good.
Talking about like Batman, like the opening gang of this film, and then like them throughout the rest of the movie is the most 1990s game possible. Like it is just a thing of beauty.
Well, yeah, this was also the year of the Ninja Turtles movie, which also had nunchucks and ridiculous gang members, including a very young Sam Rockwell as a ridiculous gang member.
But we're not talking about that movie right now.
No, we should at some point though, because that movie fucking rules. And I will spend that movie.
No, I'm right there with you
forever.
But like the movie, the first line of the movie is like a bad overdub.
I was watching this on the plane on a little tablet, and I was watching it over a Bluetooth headset, so there was a huge delay.
Like so everything sounded like ADR.
Well, I could like control the like I could adjust the timing, but it was impossible to do it in that scene.
Yeah, I was like, is something fucked up with my audio? And then as soon as it like switched shots, it was fine again. I was like, oh, that's what they went with in the opening, huh?
Yep. Hey man, bad ADR is it's still a thing that still exists, but it was
easier.
It's
just like it was. I feel like maybe that shouldn't have been the first line, but it's fine.
Fair enough.
Anyways, nunchucks, and then like they do the thing where like everybody drops all their weapons, and it's like it's like a parody of like a scene like that where they there's like a mountain of weapons on the.
So I think. Oh yeah. Never mind. I was getting ahead of myself. So.
So we find out that Durant is our bad guy, and he likes to cut people's fingers off with a cigar cutter. Which
I think that traumatized me as a kid because
you just skip the wooden.
Right, that's what I was gonna say. We have missed the
best like the best thing maybe in the whole movie, honestly.
The wooden leg.
Yeah. That is an absolutely fantastic gag.
Yeah, that's true.
It was very effective too.
It was he took out like the whole
An entire
opposing
army,
gang.
right? There was like six guys from one gang went to go onto the turf of another gang, and we get the speech that we quoted at the very beginning of this, where what was his name? It was like Robbie Black or
Durant.
something. No, the leader of the other
Robert
gang.
J. Durant.
The other, I don't remember the other gang
No,
leader's name.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
But yeah, so one guy is walking with a limp, and then he does the I was engaged to a girl with a wooden leg. Oh yeah, what happened? I had to break it off. And then one of the dudes drops down and rips the guy with the bad leg. He rips his leg off, and the leg is a machine gun. And then those 6 guys kill like 80 dudes.
Yeah. Yep. It's like a wrestling match with Mad Dog Vachon at ringside in his later days. Someone's gonna rip the leg off and use it as a weapon.
I promise to bring up wrestling at least one more time.
Yeah, for sure. Well, we will. Yeah, we definitely will bring up wrestling at least one more time because an action movie favorite is in this movie for like a second with no lines.
He is, and I wasn't sure if he was or not.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And then I was like, get out of the way. I need to verify.
Definitely him. So machine gun, like prosthetic machine gun leg, much like in Planet Terror, just wipes out everybody. Prosthetic machine gun legs are apparently the best weapon of choice, as it turns out.
He had infinite ammo.
Yeah. And then when we meet our hero, he is working on his artificial skin. And when the bad guys break in because they're trying to get a memo that his girlfriend, Frances McDormand, who is a district attorney, has, everything becomes a Dutch angle, and it's like an episode of the 60s Batman series. Like,
once again, like, and I know I said this, but this is just such pure unadulterated Raimi, you know, like I'm just shocked that they let him get away with it, you know, and you can see this in all of his movies. Like I think the reason why the Spider-Man movies hold up so well is because he wasn't just making a comic book movie, he was making a Silver Age comic book movie.
All of them except for the third one.
Well, you know, the third one is like almost half of a decent movie. So, you know, it's to me, I did a rewatch not too long ago, and I think the wheels really only completely fall off in the final third. Like,
it is one of those movies where I got like literally halfway through it and went, why is everyone complaining about this movie? It's like really good. And literally the next scene is when it starts to happen.
And so there's a point where you can literally see the movie give up, and it's when it's going into like its final round, and it just has these news anchors come out of nowhere and start narrating the movie. And like the second that happens, you're like, well, they were done. Like they just decided that it was
Sam has checked out completely. But I remember liking the emo Spider-Man stuff, and then afterwards everybody started making fun of it, and I was like, you're making fun of a thing that was supposed to be funny in the first place. Like you're making fun of a joke as if it's not a joke, but it very obviously was a joke because it's Sam Raimi and he's doing all of the Raimi things in this emo Spider-Man sequence, and it's fucking great.
Like, were you like thinking that like Sam Raimi's sense of humor was broad? You know, the Three Stooges guy, the guy who directed the "I'm Robert J. Durant" scene in this, like, you know, the guy who literally had Bruce Campbell's like face pulled and contorted into putty. Like his humor is always broad, you know. So
yeah, absolutely. Eric, are you just gonna keep playing the first stage over and over again?
You only get a certain number of continues, homie.
When you hit perfection that early, why would you do anything else? So
I took a note watching this that said, "Do you think whoever made the title sequence for this movie has seen Batman '89?"
Well, and let's talk about that. Well, the score is great.
The Danny Elfman score,
one of Elfman's best. Just like that really low brass, and it's ominous and fun and playful and everything that Danny Elfman used to be. So.
Wait, what did you say about Jimmy Hart rap metal?
It's like the Jimmy Hart, rewrite of the Batman score. Like I've never like there could not possibly be a stronger resemblance.
No, right?
Like, yeah.
I mean, but it is at least it's Raimi himself doing it, and not Jimmy Hart trying to write a song that was written by Rick Derringer or somebody.
Yeah, like that was one of my first notes, was that this is a weird Danny Elfman ripoff soundtrack, and then the credits pop up and it's
It's
like
a Danny
music by
Elfman.
Danny Elfman. It's like, oh yeah, okay, sure, obviously.
Yeah, it's pure Elfman, which of course further ties.
That's
it to
one of the
Batman,
things that
obviously.
that definitely, like, if the all the Sam Raimi shots and the corny jokes and all that stuff didn't peg it as a 90s movie, the Danny Elfman soundtrack
score.
really anchors it to the early 90s. It's just like movies do not sound like that anymore.
No, which is kind of a shame, because I feel like people heap praise on Hans Zimmer, and I'm always just like, his music is totally unnoticeable. I can never hum a few bars of anything that Hans Zimmer puts in a movie. It's not memorable. It's not, and the same goes with whoever has been writing the songs for the Marvel, like the Avengers theme. I can kind of hum a few bars of, but like none of the other music from like any of those movies, unless it's pop songs from Guardians of the Galaxy. But like the actual scores, I feel like they just worked themselves into like being completely unnoticeable now for the most part. It's very rare that unless it's like like Disaster Pieces score to It Follows, which is this like these like no, that wasn't Disaster Piece. That was yeah, I can't remember that guy's name. Yes.
I was gonna say Cliff Martinez is someone who's doing interesting scores now for films. Trent Reznor at Atticus Ross, but yeah, I agree. For the most part, it feels like temp tracks have really killed the film score at this.
Who did the Uncut Gems one? That one's real good.
That one was really good.
Oh yeah, that one was
The Ghost of Wendy Carlos Williams.
Yeah, that one is super tense. I mean, that movie is on the whole just completely tense throughout. That's a good movie though.
That is a good movie.
Is it better than Darkman?
Probably.
Yes.
Yeah, probably.
You know what? I'm gonna stick with Darkman on this one.
Okay. Time hasn't told on that yet, I guess. Really, like, ask me in 30 years if I watch Uncut Gems again and still like it, then I would say it's probably better than Darkman. But having just watched them both within like 2 months of each other, I'll say right now that Uncut Gems is probably a better movie. But I still like Darkman a lot, so yeah. So the thing I love about this movie, or one of the things I love about this movie, as we kind of move through it,
canisters of flammable gas.
all the canisters of flammable gas are really good.
All of the crates, there's like a million breakable crates, especially when Liam Neeson really needs to break a bunch of crates. Fucking turns into a late 90s video game.
90s,
yeah, it's
right.
great.
It's either an early 90s movie or a late 90s video game.
Yeah.
Yep. Well, the thing I was going to say, those are all very true, and I agree with all of that. But I was going to say that most movies have like a training montage where like the hero has to get better or stronger. And this movie has a science montage where he has to do science.
And he does.
And he does.
He sciences the shit out of him. Well,
but
yeah. Mm-hmm. So if we're talking about like this, so he is creating a artificial skin that they discover through scientific accident can only survive in the dark. What secrets does it hold?
What I love is how like a high level and
when unfortunately some gangsters come to believe that he's in the possession of the Belisarius memorandum.
Well, he is. They're right. He is in possession of that.
So wait, my wife and I were confused about this. Why was the memorandum in his lab?
Because
does he live in his lab?
Yes.
The lab is underneath
so
his
he lives
apartment.
there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. That was not clear to me. I don't. Yeah. Why does he live in his lab?
It's cheaper.
I guess rent is so damn high.
Why does April live in her apartment, in her antique store in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles?
Because most people live in apartments.
Her antique store. Anthony.
No, I don't know, man.
Because it's cheaper to live in the place where you work. That's why.
I guess.
Although I guess Detroit probably wasn't that expensive in 1990. But anyways,
that's a loft space there.
Yeah. I mean, it's a good loft space in a nice neighborhood right in the river. I mean, come on. And it's a good thing it's right in the river because his flaming body is extinguished by landing in the river. So.
I think that whole scene. Well, like I said, I've said before that the revenge, the scene in which he's basically tortured and murdered and has his friend murdered is just absolutely sadistic. And like, even though this movie is, like I said, playing at a very heightened emotional level, like it does like feel painful. And the scene where he is recovered from the river and is like going like undergoing like medical guinea pig, basically, even more so. Just want to point out Raimi cameo, noted asshole and child murderer John Landis among the doctors who is treating Darkman.
Well, and the woman, the nurse or the doctor who explains explains we found this bum and gave him an expensive experimental treatment.
It's
for
a
some reason.
really incredible. It's like a perfect superhero origin story, though, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, yeah, but I like that his wife buries him, but they never find the body.
Just
But
an
they
ear.
just found
Just
a
an ear.
burned body downriver from this lab that exploded. And they're like, well, I don't know who that guy is.
Could be
It's
any
a hobo. It's just a hobo.
Hey, they did find an ear, and it did take him long to bury that.
That's true. But the doctor who is explaining the treatment is the nurse from American Werewolf in London as well.
I did not know that.
So the one who immediately hops in the sack with her patient and lets him stay at her house where he becomes a werewolf.
Yeah, John Landis also showed up in the medical scenes in Spider-Man 2, where you got a chainsaw rammed through him. So, what that it twere real life.
Yeah, forgot about that. But there was something else I was going to say about that scene, but now I don't remember. Oh, I like that she. I love that. Speaking of the heightened reality of the whole thing, when she's explaining that he doesn't feel pain, she just like jabs a knife in the knee.
I know.
Yeah, that's great. Well, I love just how low rent Darkman is as a movie theater. As a movie hero, his powers are that he can't control his emotions, and he's like slightly stronger than the average person.
Slightly.
And he's impervious to pain.
He's impervious to pain. Like that's it. Like he lives in a squat. You know.
Well, that guy is an open scab. Like
his magical power is.
I guess what I'm saying is that Darkman is definitely the most punk rock of all superheroes.
Yeah.
Like he's impervious to pain, but he probably would feel so much more than anyone else, anyways. That I feel like it balances out. Also, I just want to say, looking at the stream, that Eric has very good taste because that gif of him flying out of the explosion.
Yeah, that's
the hardest I've laughed in a month.
Yeah, it's real good. Ethan, you said something, but I didn't catch it.
Oh, I said we're saying that his special power is that he can't control his emotions, and he's like a little bit stronger than average, which is like basically every person at like a P90X or a CrossFit class.
Yeah, I mean they imply that he's actually like quite a bit stronger. I mean he shoves Ted Raimi's head like through a manhole and opens it with his skull, which is like. If you ever like tried to lift a manhole cover, that's hard to do with one hand in a dude's head. Is all I'm saying. But
Raimi's just got a very hard head, and that's a fantastic scene.
That is a fantastic scene, and also features the 90s superhero alley drop, which I feel like there's not superhero movies now don't take advantage of superheroes being able to be like super frightening in that way, but like Batman has the alley drop, and this movie has the alley drop, and The Crow has the alley drop, where the hero just drops into like a pile of refuse in an alley, and the bad guy's like, what was that? And then like ignore it and keep walking, and then they get like just fucking terrorized by whoever the hero in question is. And yeah, he drags him into the sewers, and one of the great moments in this movie is he's dangling him above like an infinitely deep sewer for some reason. Like I don't know how deep the sewers are in Detroit, and then
the wonderful gothic sewer.
Yeah, and then as Ted Raimi's character is screaming, "I told you everything," he goes, "I know you did, Rick. I know you did, but let's pretend you didn't."
And once again, like that scene works because you've essentially given him license to do anything, from the virtue of that first scene. And I'm going to go so far as to say, with the exception of Henrietta, this is probably my favorite Ted Raimi performance.
Yeah, that's pretty good. At the end of Evil Dead, or the end of Army of Darkness, where he's he's Ash's coworker that Ash is telling the story to, is also pretty good, though. I will say that.
That let's pretend we didn't line has been in my vocabulary for pretty much my whole life, and I don't think I realized it was from this movie until I was watching it like this weekend for this episode.
Yeah.
So it's just the thing that I said, but now it's like, oh, now I know where that comes from.
Yeah, so I watched this movie for the first time probably on cable as like a tween, and it sounds like that's like kind of par for the course. But it seemed like Anthony maybe just watched this for the first time.
Yeah, but I had never seen this before.
What was your impressions of it? As a fresh viewer.
This feels like an Anthony movie to me.
I laughed a lot.
Did you cry?
I cried a little bit.
Oh my goodness.
I'm crying now that Alex is here, so
I'm just gonna pick this dynamic right up where we left off 4 years ago or whatever, 5 years ago.
It's been a minute. What's up,
Bryce?
Bryce?
It is. How you doing, Alex? Good to hear from you, buddy.
Good to hear from you too. Fuck you, etc., etc.
Yeah.
I have heard, dude. How have you not seen Darkman? Darkman fucking rules, dude.
I'd never.
Darkman does fucking rule. Dude.
Like this is like Joe just said that this is like an Anthony movie. This is like the Anthony movie.
I'm having a flashback to when I found out you hadn't seen The Running Man, like when we started doing this
is that level of magnitude
ago. It's that level of like, how have you not seen this? That is an Anthony movie.
Yeah,
you're okay with me because I also had not seen it. I think my brother rented this from like Blockbuster. And I must have. The movie felt new to me, but I definitely had seen some scenes from it because in my life I have basically the idea of a cigar cutter has only ever been to cut somebody's finger off. Like, it hasn't even occurred to me that there's any other use for a cigar cutter. So, and that I don't. Is there another cigar cutter movie?
Not that I can think of. I think
yeah,
this is the Man on Fire. Man on Fire.
Yeah.
The guy's hands.
Oh, no, this guy has to have been something I saw when I was like 9.
Oh yeah, then it was this. Because Man on Fire is 2004.
I mean, this movie also had a Man on Fire.
It did. I'm watching the GIF right now, as a matter of fact.
It's so good when he goes fly. Man, yeah. It's I don't know. This movie was funny.
Yeah, I mean, it's supposed to be. That's the intention. I think. Pretty sure.
Yeah,
that's what
it was. For. Yeah. It was a good time throughout. I was not bored for even a moment.
Good.
And it's interesting because the first murder he does with Ted Raimi's very direct, but then he essentially just Three Stooges the rest of the gang to death until the final thing.
The setup for Paulie is really good when he sets him up and puts the plane tickets on his suitcase and everything.
That whole scene made me want to play Hitman again.
Yeah.
And the whole like 100% like what that was.
The gag at the end too of him getting thrown out of the building and then spotted by the old lady like afterwards. Like that's a ton of fun. Just
what. Can we talk about Larry Drake for a second? Like, what happened to Larry Drake? Because he was in this, he was in the bad sequel, and he was in Dr. Giggles, and like he was on LA Law as like a mentally handicapped dude who worked in the law firm.
Guy?
Yeah.
And then
the
like
the bad guy?
Yeah, the main bad, Robert J. Durant.
Yeah, he looks super familiar, and I could not place him.
He just had that LA Law money, and he didn't need to work that much. I guess.
I don't know.
He's in the sequel to this movie.
But yeah, I think he's going to this.
The Return of Durant.
I mean, we talk. We talk about like how specific the tone of this movie is and how specifically Neeson's performance is and everyone. But like really Larry Drake has to be on that level too, and he nails it.
Well, when he's acting against himself, or I don't know if this is like a Linda Hamilton, like he secretly has a twin brother or something. That's how they did those scenes, because this is before like really complex digital effects would let you do. So I mean, obviously there's scenes where they're not in the same frame, but they're
as a twin brother.
Yes, Linda Hamilton has a twin brother. Linda
Larry
Hamilton's a
Drake was
twin
also
sister,
evidently.
and
Larry
that's how
Drake
they-
evidently is also in Karate Kid, American Pie 2, Mr. Bean, Dark Knight of the Scarecrow. So
So
things.
I get all my haunted Scarecrow movies confused. So I'm not sure which one that is because there are so many. But
It's a
Very
made-for-TV
common,
one.
yeah.
It's extremely boring.
Okay,
Kind of looks like Jack to Mr. Bean. Is there a Mr. Bean movie where he gets jacked and Larry Drake plays Jack to Mr. Bean?
Mr. Bean gets swole,
Yeah,
and
he
it's
gets
Larry Drake. No,
he gets
what-
input jacked, not whatever you
Yeah.
were saying before, Ethan. Media.
Who
Good joke from
was he
before
in
we were
American?
broadcasting.
Who the hell was he in American
Oh,
Pie
whatever.
2? Like, I definitely saw that movie a few times when I was in high school and college, and I have no memory of him in that movie.
Why did you see American Pie 2 ever?
Let alone
I-
multiple times.
Let alone multiple times.
Was it
'cause
really
I-
good?
Because I liked the first one. I mean, the first one came out when I was in high school, and I thought it was funny, and so I saw the sequel, and
So
I
you had
also
to be
thought
sure
it was
you
kind
didn't
of
like
funny.
the sequel.
I think the first two are still like they're still pretty funny teen comedies from that era.
Larry Drake played Natalie's dad in American
Oh.
Pie 2.
Yes, Natalie,
Of course, he's someone's
Natalie's
dad. That makes
dad.
sense. That makes sense.
Yeah.
That he would be a dad, I guess. Okay. Well, anyways,
Goals, the
but
murderous
that's still
dentist.
all those movies are still like 15 to 20 years old. So, well, whatever. But yeah, the whole sequence where they go to the Chinese restaurant to try to shake down because the Chinese restaurant owner gangster owes money to Durant, and Peyton shakes him down with the cigar, which is like a great power move. Especially because you're wondering like what he's running out of time, and he looks like he's kind of freaking out. What's he gonna do? And then he's just like, "You have until I finish this cigar," and it's like he cuts it down to a stub. That's like a great sequence featuring former WWF Tag Team Champion Professor Toru
Professor.
Tanaka, aka
like we-
Sub-Zero, aka Plain Zero.
Okay, Plane Zero.
It's like we never left. We never stopped.
No,
You know
that's
what I
right.
mean?
Yeah,
Yeah.
It's, you if you'd been here the whole time, you would know that is exactly
As
Yeah.
we
Exactly
commented,
Okay.
Alex coming in late is part of it. So it's
that's
part
yeah,
of his
somebody
Well,
showing
I
up
was
halfway
busy.
through is part of it. Yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
You want me to tell them about the time you blew a 6-week operation because you were busy getting a blowjob?
Yeah, tell him.
Okay.
I don't care.
There's this time Alex blew a 6
Blew the operation.
because he was busy getting a blowjob.
Okay, so let me back up here.
Uh-huh.
So
Back it all the way up.
he has 99 minutes
Yep.
to do whatever, and then his
Until-
face melt.
Right.
Is
till
that a metaphor for how long an action movie should be?
Maybe. Oh, that's definitely one thing I was going to
That's
say very
excellent.
quickly. I'm going to let Anthony finish his thought, but the superhero movies are so long now. We need to get back to like a 94-minute
Yeah.
superhero movie. That's all I'm
Yeah,
saying.
it's one
Go
of
ahead
those
with your point.
Fucking Marvel movies hits minute 100 and its face starts to steam and boil.
I mean, some of them it's like Endgame. I get why that was really long. They're just tying up all these loose ends and doing this big like epic story. But some of them I'm just like, you could be 90 minutes long. That would be fine. Like, cut out some stuff and move it at a quicker clip. But what were you saying, Anthony? About he's got the 99-minute.
Okay, so why does he have all the masks like hanging in his lab then?
Well, because they're in the dark, and in the dark, it's only in the light. What secrets does the
Oh, I
dark
see.
hold,
So what
Anthony? He's trying to
happens if
figure
he-
out the secrets that the
But
darkness
what happens
holds.
if he goes like?
Right, the cells are
happens if he goes
photosensitive. That's what they figure out at the beginning in the lab. That was like the big revelation.
Yeah,
And
I
so
remember that. So like,
The faces
happens
melt
when
if
he
they're in
goes-
the light.
what happens if he goes back into the dark though? Does it
Then he
just
gets
stop or
bonus
does it
time.
reset?
Yeah, no, the timer stops, I think.
But it doesn't that doesn't recharge.
Doesn't
the time.
recharge the timer.
It doesn't recharge.
No.
Okay.
I don't even know if the
movie doesn't
timer
really
would stop.
explain it.
I think once it's exposed to the light, then it just begins to deteriorate, like whether or not it's still in the light.
I don't know if that
Every time he
rule
goes
is
to the
really.
closet, get a
It's
different
not really
size mask.
explained.
It
Yeah.
takes a minute off of every other mask.
The actual answer is it doesn't matter.
No,
Yeah.
it doesn't. That. I was just trying to figure out why there were a bunch of masks, but that makes sense actually. That if they're in the darkness, they'll keep.
Mhm.
Okay.
Yep. Oh, this game has cutscenes. Fancy.
The other one has a story.
Does
if
it have
anyone could look
72
at it, so.
polygons?
Yeah, I laughed at that when they're
I did too.
making the poly mask, and it's like that is not enough polygons to make a convincing human face, I promise. Oh, this one is like shitty Double Dragon. Okay. Yeah.
I really like his
let's see
walk in this
here.
game.
Yeah, right.
It's fantastic.
So I think
Are we up to
I got-
the
we need to
where
talk
it
about the
reunites with
helicopter.
Julie
we can talk about
and the
when you
fair? We need to talk about the carnival scene.
Yeah,
I feel like that's very important.
Well, also it's like
That
it
is
wasn't
the best scene in the movie.
It
is.
Sorry.
It
Is
Maybe-
absolutely.
Why would you say that? Is there some sort of particular implement used in that scene that you particularly find yourself drawn to? Like I don't know, some sort of pachyderm that is fuchsia colored ish?
I
Maybe?
enjoy a pink elephant. Give it to me. The pink
I mean, I think
elephant.
the most important thing about the element is that you fucking take it.
From a fucking elephant.
Yeah, exactly.
Just that the time. You know, once again, we've been talking a lot about like Raimi's like broad sense of humor here, and I think it's important to draw the distinction that just because it's broad doesn't mean it's not precise. Because like if you just take this like alone as its own short film, like as this strange like common thing, it is perfect. Like the way it escalates, the way it like builds, the way like the way the cuts work, you know, just the way that it keeps, you know, building and building and building until the place where it ends up, it might not be logical, but it's like the emotional through line is so clear that when he breaks that fucking Carney's finger, like I am right there with him. Like that Carney really should have just given him the fucking pink elephant.
I also like that it's just like it's very clearly just a rubber hand with two fingers extended that pokes into him, and when he bends it back, it just caves in like a rubber hand.
Yeah,
But
the gif that's happening right now with the three
Yeah.
faces and the scream is so good.
Well, yeah, God,
absolutely.
they talk about like the what have you, like we talked in the beginning about some of the process shots, but to me like they work so well in this scene, you know, when like the scene like when like the background just disappears behind him into fire, and like you get the clown montages and just everything, you know.
Those shots I like because they're so obviously going for like a comic book effect. When I was talking about bad compositing, I was talking about like when the rich asshole opens the wall
Window?
and
Yep.
and they're standing in front of the window, and I was like,
And
whoa,
he's looking at that city
that
that's actually there.
yeah, I was like, that is some bad green screen right there, man. That's rough. But the sequences where like he snaps and they show like the red lightning behind him and stuff like that. I think those are all good shots. But yeah, this is like quintessential. This tilt of the camera to all three of the faces is like quintessential Raimi, and in fact, it shows more and more. Yeah, there we go. So
This scene, as much as anything in Evil Dead 2, is arguably peak Raimi. Like it does not get better than this.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's not quite to the laughing deer head scene of Evil Dead 2, I don't think, but you know, it's
in his top three
in the
for
ballpark.
sure. Yeah.
You know, the laughing deer head scene, the laughing furniture sequence in Evil Dead 2 might be the greatest sequence in the history of cinema. I'm just saying. So, but also a lot
I'm
of
just
these
nodding.
yeah, a lot of these sequences
Absolutely.
show how much Edgar Wright is influenced by Sam Raimi. Like Edgar Wright and Guy Ritchie both like really, really heavily influenced by Sam Raimi, and it shows in a lot of their work as well. Which there's no better guy to be influenced by, I suppose, than Sam Raimi. But it shows a lot in the work of those two directors, especially. Like I saw Snatch at a midnight screening a few weeks ago, and I was like, man, Guy Ritchie is doing Sam Raimi stuff all over this movie, and it's great, and I love it.
Yeah, the gentleman Asian gangster scene definitely stole a couple beats from Darkman.
Yes.
I think it'd be fair to say.
Yes.
So.
Yeah, a lot of stuff in that movie also. That's Guy Ritchie back in good form, which means he's ripping off Sam Raimi. quite a
Right.
bit.
Means yeah. Jeez.
So-
You know, my sadistic housemate had me watch King Arthur: Legend of the Sword, and I almost chewed through my wrists. Like, holy shit, was that film bad?
I heard nothing but bad things, and so I
Is
opted not to subject myself to that.
It's one of those things where it's like you think you can imagine the bottom level fairly easy, and then it just watching it tunnel through that is it's at a certain point it just becomes impressive. So
I like that Darkman looks more like Rorschach from Watchmen in
Yeah,
this
I was
Game Boy
thinking that.
game.
yeah,
I also like that back kick thing he
And,
got.
yeah. Yeah, but the whole carnival sequence is like you were saying, Bryce, it builds and builds and builds, and he's obviously like really upset when they do like the sideshow bit with I don't even know what that kid is supposed to, what the deal is supposed to be, but like
Beast
that
Boy.
starts
whatever.
that like starts to set him off, and then it builds really well up to the pink elephant and the finger breaking and all of that stuff.
I laughed so hard when I don't think it was this scene. It was the other one where he was like, "Well, would you still love me if like
I was horrifically scarred.
And she's like, "I don't know." She's like, "I can't tell you."
Frances, she does a really good job with what I think it would be fair to call an underwritten role, and like
Yes.
making that an interesting person, and
I mean,
her
she's
delivery
As
is
the
like
only
that.
woman that exists in the world.
yeah, right.
Right.
The singular woman in this film. She's really good. I mean, she's always good. She's been good since Blood Simple. She's always had an ability to do that stuff, and yeah, she definitely brings something to this role that otherwise would, like in a lesser actress's hands, you would just be like, yeah, the girlfriend, whatever. The way she delivers the line of "If you're not gonna kill me, I've got things to do" is
Yeah, that was a good line.
extremely choice. Yeah. So is it time to talk about the helicopter sequence yet? Are we?
Sure.
It's always time to talk about the helicopter sequence.
I'm looking at my notes.
Mhm.
I do have a tortured analogy for you, since Ethan.
Oh, we
is-
really are back and forth.
I think we're only back in form if Ethan delivers the tortured analogy, but
Oh, let me have it.
New season, new. Okay. So I was the two guys with the machine guns that break into his lab at the end of the movie. You know, they
Okay.
have this like stance where they're firing the machine guns. So here's my tortured analogy for their stance. You know how when you record yourself talking and then you play it backwards, and then you try to mimic that sound and then you play it backwards again, and it sounds like what you said but like all fucked up?
Yeah.
What the
It's
fuck
like
are you
those-
talking about?
I'm getting there. It's like those guys saw a guy playing a guitar and doing the machine gun move, and then translated that to an actual machine gun.
What?
That was fucking agonizing. Anthony.
I know.
That was.
I'm glad we
I
got
know.
What I like
there.
about that is
They
that
like
entire
keep
first
the
part
door
didn't need it
open
at
and
all.
spread their legs as far as they possibly could apart, and then like crouched down and started firing their. It was really good. I really liked it.
It's pretty good. And the guy in the purple suit,
Uh-huh.
like his whole interaction with Darkman and with the other guy that he like tapes his mouth shut and puts two masks on his face and like shoves him over to his buddy. All of that, and then up to when
It was like they don't even know what he looks like. Why would
well they saw him when he still had a face. They're the ones who took his face off.
Oh, I guess that's right. Yeah, I guess that's
Starring, what's his name? John Travolta.
Yes, and Nicholas
Face
Cage.
Off and Nicolas Cage.
Yeah. So they would kind of know theoretically.
Yeah, I guess that's fair.
So yeah, but
Anyways,
then when he
alright.
comes out wearing
Then the
wearing the
helicopters.
mask of the guy in the purple suit and starts and just like looks at he's like nice shot and then just starts like laughing hysterically. That's real good too. Oh, and there was one thing I wanted to say about Neeson's performance, and we were talking about how he kind of goes from ridiculous, overwrought into like serious sort of pathos, and I think there's no better example of that in this movie then the scene where he puts the funnel on his head and dances for the cat, but then he like breaks down, has like an emotional breakdown, and he's like, "I'm a scientist," like all that. Like that's a really great, like from manic to like just really sad, and it plays the way it should, you know, the way that if Bruce Campbell had done it, it would have come across as campy, but with Liam Neeson doing it, it comes across as
Yeah, it, like teeters on the edge of like getting too ridiculous, but it like he always pulls it back.
yeah. But yeah, the helicopter. So this is like the kind of action sequence that I feel like only happens now if Tom Cruise wants to put himself over in a Mission Impossible movie. You know, like otherwise they would do this all with CG and green screen, and like there's no way a famous actor is. I mean, probably Neeson wasn't hanging from the helicopter; it was a double, I'm sure, but like nobody's hanging off the helicopter.
Yeah.
2020 unless it's Tom Cruise doing a Mission Impossible because he wants to like
talk in an interview about how he was hanging off of a helicopter.
Yeah, right, exactly. You know, which I mean, props to Tom Cruise for doing all those cool stunts, doing it in camera. Like I think that's super cool, and I'm glad that someone is still like wants to do that stuff besides like aged Jackie Chan, who even now uses a double in the few movies that he still is in. But this is like some Jackie Chan. This is like some vintage 80s Jackie Chan shit. Is due to
that Christopher McQuarrie and Tom Cruise have entered into an erotic relationship that will culminate with Christopher McQuarrie murdering Tom Cruise on screen with just the ultimate stunt.
Yeah, but it'll be
These are the thoughts I have.
Tom Cruise will get like cancer or some other like fatal, and he'll ask for it. Like Chris, like I got ass cancer and I'm gonna die, man. So like I'm gonna swan dive off the Burj Khalifa.
We're gonna do the scene from Man on Fire, except for real this time.
With an actual man.
Yeah. And an actual bomb in his actual butthole. It'll kill the ass cancer first before it kills the rest of me.
Anyway, I think the conception of the helicopter scene is. Hey, have we mentioned we're all 35-year-old men now making ass cancer jokes?
Hey, 34.
Hey, I'm the same age Liam Neeson was when he shot this movie right now, actually. So
you could be Darkman, bro.
You could be Darkman.
Yeah,
bro.
I mean, it's actually so was Police Story 3. Police Story 3 is the one where Jackie does actually dangle from a helicopter, right?
Police Story 3 is 96.
Oh, so this was after this. So this is before Jackie Chan was dangling from helicopters. Liam Neeson's stunt double was dangling off helicopters first. Damn it!
It's a really well conceived thing. Like, and that's why I feel like even if you did it now, like a lot of it would be just like look at this stunt. But like once again, it's like Raimi using this like cartoon Three Stooges creativity to like think of things to do while they're on the dangling over the helicopter.
What does he say when he smashes into the office window and then jumps out again?
Yeah, I
think he just says,
does he literally just say sorry, something like that? Yeah. So
I think he says to take the fucking elephant. I don't remember.
That's the only line Alex remembers from this movie.
That's true, actually.
Take the fucking elephant.
This is no time for a dick measuring contest.
We need to make 6 more take the pink elephant jokes before we're done here tonight. We decided that our quota was 10. So
yeah, right. So, well, that was the over under. If anybody took the under, they might be wanting us to not make those.
I want to take the Scream Blu-ray factory of this Scream Factory Blu-ray of this home with me like a pink elephant. So you know,
is there a Scream Factory Blu-ray?
There is. Yeah, they did a really nice job. The only problem is that they do a lot of Raimi stuff, but for some reason he doesn't like do any interviews, so they always kind of feel slightly incomplete to me. So they always they'll talk to literally everyone else in the picture, and then they just won't get Raimi. So They put out Crime Wave. Okay, that's how dedicated they are.
I mentioned Crime Wave to Megan while we were watching the movie, and she's like, "Never heard of that one." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not surprised."
It's better that way. I mean, like even as the diehard Raimi fan who has on this very podcast this very night said nice things about Spider-Man 3 and Oz the Great and Powerful, there's really not much I can say nice about Crime Wave.
I liked Oz the Great. I mean, for what it was, I thought Oz the Great and Powerful was totally fine.
I think it's absolutely delightful. It is a I actually I rewatched it for the first time in probably 3 or 4 years about a month ago, and it is a shockingly nice movie.
All right,
and once again, like I like that Sam Raimi is, and just all this Hollywood shit that we hear about, like the surprisingly decent person, and I think his movies reflect that. Like Oz the Great and Powerful is basically a movie about learning to care about like the effect of your actions on other people's emotions. Like Spider-Man 3 is basically a action movie that's structured around the concept of forgiveness and forbearance. Like yeah, you maybe don't have the moral depth here in Darkman, but like there's a genuine like humanity and decency to his movies that really has keeps it going beyond just the exploding heads and the gore cartoons. And like I feel like once the punk rock energy of his career kind of wore off, like that's kind of what keeps me coming back.
yeah, I was gonna ask. This is the main thing that my number one topic, aside from the Pink Elephant stuff of the night, is what the fuck happened to Sam Raimi? Like
he just produces movies.
He
now.
just doesn't. He doesn't make movies anymore. Like I don't like. Drag Me to Hell was fucking great, and it was a big hit. And Oz I didn't see, but that was like a success, right?
Yeah, I mean, essentially, I know that he's like a family man, and I think essentially, if he's not making movies, it's because he doesn't want to be making movies right now. Like, I don't think it's a situation where he can't get funding because he funds stuff as a producer all the time.
Right.
The big one that he was rumored to do that I thought would have been really neat was he was supposed to do the adaptation for the King Killer Chronicles, The Name of the Wind. And he's, he was on deck to make both The Hobbit and Warcraft. And in retrospect, it's probably good that both those movies didn't come together. But he's always wanted to make a fantasy movie.
I mean, they might have been a lot better.
Yeah, thank God we got those horrible Hobbit movies.
Oh God.
The biggest disappointment of my life.
Oh, the first one's okay.
It's not.
Let's
not.
take this super simple, fun adventure story and then write a bunch of the Lord of the Rings.
The first one's got enough weird. It's got enough weird Peter Jackson stuff, like the bird shit dreadlocked wizard, like bringing a hedgehog back to life, and it's got like that earthy like weirdness to it that I enjoy.
I don't want the Peter Jackson shit.
Hug.
I just want a fun adventure movie in The Hobbit.
I would have liked the
Darkman. Which I thought
the point being is that he was connected to these other films, and he tried to do. I think for a while it was rumored that he was going to make a Bermuda Triangle film with Ryan Reynolds, and that didn't come together. And then he was supposed to. Interesting enough, it was announced this fall that he was making a quote unquote small scale horror film. That was described as like the Survivor type, the Stephen King short story. So that would have been interesting. But he's apparently just been called in to kind of clean up hit / save the second Doctor Strange movie. So we'll see if he actually ends up.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did hear that. That could be really interesting. I'm really interested to see. I feel like they're gonna go weird places with that. The first one was delightful because it's so bizarre for what you would expect from a superhero movie.
It was okay. I saw that. It was all right.
I think
that's high praise for me for a modern superhero movie.
Yeah. I saw that movie on election night 2016 because I didn't want to watch the chaos unfold. But Ethan, you were saying something again a minute ago.
Trying to steer us back on track and get us to talk about the emotional core of Darkman. Which is the scene where he says, "You got to be shitting me."
That's the emotional core, huh?
I was hoping I
would agree with that.
That's what I would say if a bunch of people were trying to kill me.
You're going down, Burnhead.
Fair enough. Well, that "you got to be shitting me" is part of the helicopter. That whole sequence, isn't it? Right. It's right when the helicopter shows up, right?
Yeah, I think that's right.
Yeah. So I mean. I don't know that there's a lot more to say about that sequence aside from what we kind of already said, which is they don't really do sequences like that anymore by and large, and like Bryce said, like they really kind of make it work in with the constant gags, and it's really oddly grounded. Like Durant tries to kind of scrape him along the road or get him hit by a car, and he ends up landing on a semi, and he hooks the tow hook, to the semi. And of course, a helicopter that size does not have the lift to pick up a semi, so it just gets pulled directly into a tunnel, which is fantastic. And then it explodes with a practical effect, which again you don't see a ton of anymore.
Or like
If Michael Bay gets credit for one thing, it's he still likes to do practical things with cars and blow shit up. I don't want to watch any of his movies still, but props for actually blowing shit up and actually driving cars.
Hey, props to Michael Bay for blowing up cars.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree.
Yeah, I think we can all agree on that.
I think we can all agree cars are assholes and they deserve to die.
Yeah.
I'm actually fully on board this Death to Cars program, so.
Yep.
Okay.
And then we get.
So I
then we
think
get
we're
him
kind of
being
now at the
burned in
point that the
hell.
movie ends up, which is not that the ending scene is bad at all, but once you've had the helicopter scene, really, where do you go?
Well, you go to a fight on because all movie villains from the late 80s and early 90s had to die by falling off a building. You go up to the top of a building that's still under construction, which I actually think really that whole sequence works for me, just because the way that the asshole land developer talks about, like, yeah, when I was like a spoiled little asshole, my dad made me work at the top of these buildings, like doing the iron work, and so like the way he sort of is able to avoid Darkman when he's like dancing around the beams up there because he's used to being up there, and Darkman isn't, works for me. And then
just in case there was any doubts, if you'd watched the first like 85 minutes of this movie and weren't entirely sure that this was a Sam Raimi movie, there's some shaky cam shots of the rivets flying at Darkman, which is just like, I was standing up and applauding, like, fuck yes. That was not something I remembered from watching the movie on cable like 20 years ago, but I was just like, yep, I fucking those things that looked awesome in Evil Dead still look awesome.
And exactly the way the eyeball flies in Evil Dead 2. It's a classic Raimi shot. And there's scenes where one of them gets flipped over a girder and the camera is like locked to him as he's
perspective,
flipping, which is a classic Raimi shot as well. And like that stuff is all super Raimi stylistic, and again stuff that you've seen Edgar Wright do in the years since, where you're like, yep, he's pulling from Sam, which is part of
why. Man, when you can't afford a steady cam, whatever, put some Vaseline on a 2x4 and fucking slide that shit. Do whatever it takes,
I was gonna say, before we leave Sam's current prospects behind, I think the last thing I saw him direct was the Ash versus Evil Dead pilot, and it was pretty good. That show had the highs and lows to it, but that very first pilot has a real nice vibe.
There are some lows, there's some highs, like when he fights the asshole of a deadite asshole attacks him, like a literal colon and butthole. He has a fight against a literal butthole, which is very good. There's some really good stuff in that show.
I feel
you're saying I should watch this.
You should watch at least. You should at least watch that scene.
I feel guilty because I still haven't watched that show, and I really need, because I didn't have Stars when it was on. It was on Stars, right? I didn't have whatever channel it was on.
Yeah,
I think it was on Stars.
That sounds right.
And it's no Fury Road, but I'm glad that Bruce got one last time with the character. So
Yeah.
Although I'm the only thing that bugs me is apparently, so they got all the way up to season 3 before they canceled it, and apparently season 4 was going to be the post-apocalyptic Evil Dead that they've teased since Army of Darkness, and so it's like, God damn it, Stars, you're gonna put the bill for one more season.
One more, yeah. So
maybe they should have waited so long, Bryce.
Maybe they shouldn't have.
So is the dropping of the bad guy here? I feel like this is a pretty good one-liner with a drop, but not quite Commando level of like dropping a guy with a one-liner. Am I alone on that, or do people think this is better than Commando?
Oh, I mean, I don't think it. I mean, as a film, yes. As a kill by dropping.
Talking about just holding
quite
a guy by his leg and dropping him.
No, the Commando one is the classic on that. That's the gold standard.
Yeah.
I think what hurts that death is that, like, the drama of it is that guy thinks that Darkman is not up to dropping him off this thing, but we've seen him.
Yeah, we clearly know he is.
We've seen him stick Ted Raimi's head into traffic
Well, but he's trying to reclaim his humanity now, right? That's part of his arc, is that before he goes back to Julie, he's like this manic force, and part of going back to Julie is trying to like not be a fucking animal anymore, right? And so there's a little, I mean, I agree, I didn't really buy it either, because he also just had like just kicked a different dude off this building like 5 seconds earlier.
But wasn't the main bad guy though.
I mean, he blew
emotionally.
He blew up the long-haired gangster also in the lab. So
yep, with like a Total Recall-esque.
Because now he is the monster,
right?
he can't. That's why he can't.
Right. Why he can't stay with her,
right?
And becomes Bruce Campbell at the very end.
He's a very little cameo.
Yeah. Credited as Final Shemp, by the way, which is just on brand for everybody involved here.
Yep.
But yeah, so he's the bad guy's like, you can't drop me, you wouldn't be able to live with it, and he lets him go and says, I'm learning to live with a lot of things. Which is not as good as just I lied. Which is
still pretty good.
Yeah, still pretty good though. Still pretty good. And then yeah, he turns into Bruce Campbell, which is A+. And also, this is one of those movie scenes that every time I see one like this, I just always kind of love it because it's so ridiculous. It was like dark midnight when they were fighting on top of the building, and as soon as they get downstairs and he runs out onto the street and puts the Bruce Campbell mask on, it's like noon. It's like
took him a long time to get down those stairs.
How long did
a lot
it
of
take him to get
stairs
down there? So, but
Be
that's
magic.
like, yeah, yep. But man, Darkman, it's a good movie. It's a
very fun movie. It's
a very fun movie.
It's the sort of thing that I really wish. There's things like honestly, like one of the things that I wish that modern filmmakers would take from this movie is just to trust your audience and just start the movie. Like, you don't need 20 minutes of exposition and like origin story and whatever. Like, you can just have a scene.
You don't need to tell us how he got funding for the grant.
Right.
Yeah, right. He can just have a weird lab with a bunch of crazy science bullshit in it, and it's fine. Like, you don't have to tell me where that stuff comes from, and you don't have to explain like why these two gangs are like fighting over territory or whatever. They can just have the fight. It's
Just
totally
say
fine.
They're fighting over territory. Yeah.
Right.
There's so many modern I thought about that too. I didn't make a note of it, but I'm glad you said that, because there's a lot of the modern superhero movies, and we're talking about they could be shorter. They could be shorter on the front end, because there's so many of them where it's like all the best superhero origins are 3 pages of a comic book, and for some reason movies want to turn them into the first hour, or sometimes like the whole first
2.5 hour movie. Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's like at the end, like, oh, now I'm the superhero, and it's like, well, I didn't need to sit here. For
I want to see the superhero do cool stuff and be the guy. Yeah, it's fine. Like, you can just get into the movie, and then 45 minutes later, he's flipping out at a fair over a pink elephant or whatever. It's good. That's good.
Movie very well could have been that, because he does at the last line of the movie. Call me Darkman.
Yeah, right.
Which is, he finally becomes the famous character from that we know from the script of Darkman.
Yes. But like, Batman Begins spends literally an hour with Bruce Wayne not being Batman, and it's like, in the comics, it's literally like a 2-page origin that explains how he becomes Batman.
Right.
And this movie is making me sit through 60 minutes screen time.
I feel like that one is perhaps one of the exceptions, though, because I feel like, and that's what really.
I think that's the weakest of the Nolan Batman movies, honestly. Like, Cillian Murphy kind of saves it, but like, it's the weakest of the Nolan trilogy.
I would agree with that, but I would still say it's pretty good.
The third one did not hold up for me.
Yeah, same. I didn't like the
third
one.
I love the third one. It's one of my most quoted movies. I love the Vane voice. I love everything about it. But anyway, I was gonna say that that's what
What were you saying, Ethan?
Sorry, for the record, I literally can't hear Ethan, so if I'm ever talking over him, it's not because I'm being a dick.
I figured that it has to do with the Discord server, like trying to figure out who to give voice chat priority to, and it always will let you mow him down for whatever reason. I don't know why, but what were you saying, Ethan?
Was I saying something about Batman? I think
I
was
saying
just
something about Batman.
thought the third Batman sucked ass, and it was very important.
You.
Okay.
In retrospect, kind of all those movies are like not good.
I
I
think
like-
I think all of them
Sorry.
are varying degrees of good. I think the second one is
Yeah,
sort
they're
of head
fine.
and shoulders above the rest. The
I
other
think the
two,
the second
I'm
one
with you,
has
Alex.
really high highs, but also like there's a ton of bullshit in it that I don't really need.
I will say that when we're talking about the Raimi Spider-Man and the Nolan Batman versus like this modern era of comic book movies, what I think you're really losing is that personality behind them. You know,
Yeah.
like the Sam Raimi films are Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies. The Christopher Nolan movies are Christopher Nolan Batman movies. The Guillermo del Toro Hellboy films are Guillermo del Toro movies first. Like,
so
and
I think in a lot of cases you're correct, but I will step up to defend Thor 3 has Taika
Well, you get-
Waititi's
you-
fingerprints
you get-
all over it.
yeah,
And
you get the rare ones, but they're
the-
like, I mean, what,
two
10%
Guardians-
now?
Sure, the two Guardians movies are James Gunn through and through.
The only
I think
the only
I
good
think
modern
you can-
superhero movie is Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
I think you.
That
Then
movie
that
movie does
was great.
rule. I mean,
The
I
only
like
thing that movie
a
was
lot.
missing was Tobey Maguire doing the voice. If you had made that an official Raimi
Yeah,
sequel, it would
sure,
have been
yep.
my favorite film of all time.
All right,
Yeah.
yep, I would have been into that. That's good.
Chris Pine was fine though. I mean, that was
Yeah.
whatever.
I was gonna say that. Yeah, I think you could even put in like Ryan Coogler. Black Panther is a film that has a genuine
Yes.
auteurist personality
Yes.
to it, but it's like, you know, these are the outliers. You know, the vast majority of this stuff is just product, and like it's I think I've just finally reached this point where I'm done with it. You know, it's just unless I can see your personality in it, like I'm not interested.
I mean, I still see most of them. I still am in for the spectacle and what. I mean, I also like comics. Like, and I've liked comics since I was a kid. So,
Yeah,
I've
but
been
I
up
mean,
since Avengers
when
1.
those criticisms that people levy against those movies, like I agree with, especially like that's why Edgar Wright left Ant-Man, right? Because he didn't feel like it was gonna be his movie
right.
at a certain point,
Which,
so they
it's-
just kind of like decided to part ways. Then we
Right.
got Baby Driver out of it, which is so good. So
I don't. It's not that I want to be like snooty about it. I don't like superhero movies in general. But
Yeah, same. Like I was surprised I liked this movie as much as I did.
it's fine that those movies aren't for me, and that
well,
there's people that
this
like them a
movie
lot.
is
That's
way
not
different from a modern Marvel or DC.
This movie is way
Like,
different from like pretty much everything.
Well, yes. I just don't. Superheroes aren't my thing in general.
I think someday we need to talk about the Full Moon features Doctor Strange with the serial numbers filed off movie.
I would say this movie is very much not that different from
Is that one of the
Batman
secrets
Returns.
that the dark holds?
What did you
So
say,
there's-
Ethan? This is not that different from what?
Batman Returns.
It's
Yeah,
definitely
it's
got
similar.
some
I mean, it.
things
Yeah,
Batman Returns for sure.
There's a scene in this movie where Darkman is
Darkman.
standing on a
Darkman.
roof,
Peyton Darkman.
looking like I think it's after he
Scientist
killed the
Flash
first
Drive.
guy, and it's like nighttime, and he's on the like corner of a tall building, looking down into traffic.
Between the gargoyles.
Sandwiched between two gargoyles.
Yeah.
And he goes, and he goes, "What have I become?"
What have I
And just
become?
yells, "Batman!"
I have a request.
Yeah.
Can we
Alright.
end this so I can stop playing this fucking terrible Darkman Game Boy game, please?
You should just make the gifs the whole screen, if or just let the demo attract you. You don't have to keep playing it. You can just
So bad.
Go.
I missed the
So
footage of the first.
what
of
is your
the-
rating
How was
out
that?
of 10, Eric, on this
For the games,
Darkman for the Game Boy?
I think the Game Boy game is considerably worse than the NES game, and the NES game feels like total trash, but at least it has a bunch of weird gimmicks to it. This is just, the Game Boy one is just a really bad Double Dragon clone, where you're just fighting a bunch of Kevin Smiths, it looks like. I'm not wrong about that, right? It's like
yeah.
Kevin Smith with nunchucks.
Right, yeah.
Oh
I feel like
God, he's
Ethan,
got nunchucks.
yeah, Ethan was trying to say something again and got run over.
Yeah,
a
well,
little bit.
I think, I was gonna. You answered my question. I was gonna ask what you thought of the NES one because I wasn't looking at the stream when that happened. The NES game, I think I only had one issue of Nintendo Power ever in my whole life, and it was the article that had the.
I had
Dark-
that one too.
Strategy guide.
Strategy guide
Yeah.
for Darkman. Yes.
Made it look really good.
It did. They made it look super dope.
It
Oh
actually
man, there's the
lend it
helicopter sequence.
Yeah, it
Can you
actually
lend it
like
to Eric?
this game actually looks really nice, and it follows the movie in a very authentic way that most NES licensed video games do not. Like it is trying to do that. Like you miss like when you get to level 2, you actually become the what's his face guy.
Each level. So I played, like I said, I played the whole thing for Bryce's Sam Raimi blogathon a million years ago, and of course you'd have to go to the Wayback Machine to find the article I wrote. But
I think it's still up.
I beat the
up
game.
there.
I finished it, and you
There's a bunch of levels where you
as
play
all
as the
different
guys
all
that
the
you
different
hear masks
characters,
of.
like, and they all have different powers and different, which is cool.
Yeah.
But the controls are so slippery and the physics are so bad that it kind of like dampens that experience.
Yeah.
But it's a cool idea. At least
Also, if you get hit mid jump, it's an instant death,
yeah, pretty much.
which is just a total deal breaker.
Just like
Also,
real life.
the finger on the main that you use to pick what you're doing on the main title screen is also really well animated.
Yeah, there's some things that are interesting about this game.
The
but it's,
finger physics in this game, man.
Finger
Let me tell you.
physics are A+, absolutely. But yeah, I don't know. Does anybody? I mean, we've been going for about an hour and a half. Does anybody else have any final thoughts on Darkman before we call this first episode of what is now going to be the monthly action movie podcast or stream here in the On the Stick Network comes to a close? Any final thoughts on Darkman?
This was a good one to kick off season 2.
Yes,
Wow.
I feel like this was a much more auspicious beginning than Terminator Dark Fate. So,
Yeah.
so thank you, whoever suggested this one.
Yeah. I felt like we had talked about this at some point, but I feel like it was like, I guess it must have just been like a side conversation to something else. Because
I think we did a Raimi podcast back in the day.
we did. I think it was a regular on the stick
Oh,
special
yeah.
where we talked about like every, because that was how I ended up watching The Gift for the first time and another weird Sam Raimi movie that I had not seen before.
That is a good B- of a film. I'll say that.
Yeah, it was
So,
okay.
I don't think I've
Yeah.
seen that one. Which one is that?
got-
Is that the one where
That's
they
the
get
one where.
button that kills someone and then they get $1 million?
No. You're
No.
thinking of The Box. No, this
Oh,
is the one with
Kate Blanchett.
Kate Winslet
and
as a yeah
Kate
Kate
Blanchett,
Blanchett as a clairvoyant.
who's great. Who's a fucking amazing.
Uh,
yeah.
Yeah, she's really good in it. It's Keanu Reeves as an abusive
Giovanni
redneck.
Ribisi. Yeah.
That sounds terrible. The
Uh,
only other
Greg
time
Kinnear.
he's had a southern accent, I didn't even realize he was trying to do one until the movie was halfway over.
Yeah.
That was
It's
The Devil's Own. The Devil's Advocate. The Devil's Own is the IRA movie with Brad Pitt. The Devil's Advocate.
it's okay. It was okay. I don't know. I
It's,
watched
it's-
it once
it's- yeah,
like
it's-
6 years ago.
It's a
but-
good. It's a good flick. It's basically Raimi's only real horror film outside of Drag Me to Hell and the Evil Dead trilogy. And it's not like a hardcore horror film. It's a mystery that's got some like ghost story elements to it. But no, it's got a good sense of atmosphere, some good performances, and it's fun to watch.
Oh man, Drag Me to Hell.
Drag Me to Hell is I like
Drag Me to
a
Hell.
lot.
Yeah, Drag Me to Hell holds up so well.
Yep.
I think that so let's see if anyone would disagree with this statement. Drag Me to Hell, the greatest PG-13 horror film ever made.
Yeah, I'll go there with you. It's
Yeah.
if Sam
probably.
Raimi hadn't made Evil Dead 2, it would be my favorite Sam Raimi movie. It's fucking great.
I'm trying to think of what other PG-13 horror movies I've liked, and I can't think of. We used to do
It's
a
so
segment called
tight.
Watch the Thing, and I'm not
And
going to
Alex is cool. If I had the button, I
Alex
would
is
push
cool.
it and play the drop because I still have it.
Yeah.
But
I'm just going to say, I do want to say really quick, though, since we're talking about horror movies, just very briefly, The New Invisible Man is actually really good, and I would recommend
It was pretty
checking
good.
it out. I liked it a
I
lot.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Enjoyed it quite a bit.
But that's not PG-13, no, because she says fuck a whole bunch of times in that movie. So
Yeah.
that was definitely an R-rated actual horror movie, which I'm glad is also a thing that got made, because there are a lot of PG-13. Wait, was Midsummer?
no,
So,
come on, man.
no, are you-
They jump off. They show like
yeah.
up close
Yeah,
visuals
right.
of
Yeah,
people
yeah,
jumping
right.
off and hitting rocks and
Like
their
having
legs and
having
faces
their head
exploding.
smashed in with a sledgehammer.
There's a
Yeah.
dude who has his lungs removed from his body and is flayed alive on a.
I think
Yeah.
well, you watched. I think you watched the extended cut, because I don't think you actually see that in the
Oh no,
theatrical version.
I don't know. I watched whatever one was on Amazon.
Well, you said it was
streaming.
really long, right?
It was like 2.5 hours long,
hours.
which was too long. But
I think that's the
it's
extended cut.
it's all it's all right. It's okay.
I liked it.
They put a guy in a bear suit and then they burn him alive. It's pretty fucked up.
It's pretty funny.
So in the second,
Spoilers.
I really want, now that the way you said that, it makes me want fucking the Sam Raimi Midsommar.
Oh, dude.
Fucking give me the 1987 Sam Raimi Midsommar, please.
Stop
Like,
watching that movie. I would have
inject
to
it
quit
into my
job.
eyeballs.
I would, yeah. So, well, gentlemen, it's good to be back.
Yeah, it's good to be back. It's
Falling into the void.
I mean, I really felt, the internet needed us, and I think we needed to talk to each other. We needed each other again, because some of us talk pretty regularly doing video game stuff, but, I don't really ever talk to Ethan or Bryce. It's nice to have you guys around again.
Aw.
So I look
guess.
forward to doing more. We'll be back next month with we don't even know what. I can't do the ending.
We'll figure it out.
Are you going to do Terminator Dark
That
Fate?
was the action cast. But
Can we do Exterminator again?
Yeah.
we should do
Yeah.
Exterminator 2 as well.
What America needs in 2020 is more hot dogs cooked by Deathlands.
Well,
Yeah. I feel like that's my line.
yeah. I mean, I'm just gonna
I
say
get what you're saying, and I don't disagree.
WrestleMania is in April, so I mean, maybe.
Man, fuck off with that. Get out of here. We're only doing this once a month or whatever, and you're gonna
I'm not
stick
And
to
thinking
it.
you loved it. You loved No Holds Barred so much, Alex. That's one of the jokes
Yeah.
that we still make from this podcast. We were talking the other night. Eric and I were talking, not broadcasting it, just chatting amongst ourselves and talking about jokes and references that we make. And we still reference Dookie.
Hey, guys,
I actually
watched the
still
thing.
reference that.
Oh,
Yeah,
man,
that's
Alex is
very
cool.
good. Yeah.
Yep.
Hey guys, I watched.
That's it. So, all right.
well,
All
good
right,
night,
that's it.
everybody.
Yeah. Thanks for hanging out with us, and we'll be back next month with something else. That was the Action Cast.
Game
Yeah.
over.
But
now,
Game over.
no brief coming attraction.
Game over. Game over.
I found the Bill Arm.
Game over.
Anyways.
Nice.
Did you? Good. I don't have it anymore.
The game is truly not over.
He was supposed to be in this movie. I read or heard when I was looking at trivia before we started. I didn't
man.
mention that, but apparently he was supposed to be. He was one of the choices for Peyton at some point, which seems weird. Allegedly. I don't know if I believe
Professor
that.
Toru Tanaka was in it, so still
right.
had an action cast.
Now,
Action
Plane
legend.
Zero.
All right. Are we
Good night,
done?
everybody. We're done.
All
Good
right,
night,
I'm gonna
everybody.
stop the stream.